Hi everyone, I'm Daisy Rocha and this is what's happening in Brazil. We start by updating you on the latest news from the country. Thousands of people participated in São Paulo's 28th Pride Parade, which took place on Paulista Avenue last weekend. This year, organizers asked the crowds to wear yellow and green, Brazilian colors that were associated with right-wing movements in recent years. So yellow and green they wore, as well as carrying the country's flag. Singers Pablo Vittar, Gloria Groove, and Sandra de Sá headlined the event, emphasizing national unity and respect for all Brazilians. Federal deputies and pre-candidates for mayor also joined the parade, advocating for LGBT+ rights and encouraged voter participation. The Brazilian economy expanded by 0.8% in the first quarter of 2024, compared with the last 3 months of 2023. This growth was primarily driven by increased consumer spending and investments. The service and agriculture sectors contributed significantly to this positive trend. As a result, Brazil is on track to surpass Italy and become the world's 8th largest economy by the end of this year. Brazilian GDP reached over $109 billion between January and March of 2024. Retail, trade, and personal service, influenced by improvement in the job market, lower interest, and inflation rates, helped make up for the increase. The country's GDP growth in the last 12 months is of 2.5%. The hearing is held by the Inter-American Court of Human Rights in Manaus, Amazonas State, last week. Indigenous representatives from Latin America and the Caribbean voiced concerns about rights violations affecting Native communities. These leaders stressed the urgent need for demarcating indigenous lands and highlighted non-compliance with International Labour Organization, which guarantees the right to prior consultation and whose signatories include Brazil. In the event, the Inter-American Court collected reports, legal recommendations, and scientific evidence revealing the severe impact of human actions on the planet and indigenous territories. Reported consequences include violence, land encroachment, pollution, and cultural erosion. The Landless Rural Workers Movement (MST) recently conducted an airdrop of approximately 4 tons of seeds in Paraná state. Supported by a federal highway police helicopter, this operation marked the inauguration of the second Nature Day organized by the movement nationwide. The initiative aims to address the environmental crisis by planting endangered Atlantic forest species. The action is part of the national plan Planting Trees, Producing Healthy Food, launched by the MST in 2020 to plant 100 million trees by 2030. According to the movement's calculations, 25 million trees were planted last year. Of the 26 Brazilian capitals, only São Paulo and Belo Horizonte achieved an average score in the Open Knowledge Brazil's Data Index for Cities in 2023. The institute determined 6 indicators that helped define each capital's score: access, license, documentation, format, detail, and temporality. The evaluation looked, for example, at whether the data was available online, free of charge, and without the need to request access. The index analyzes the level of transparency in the city's public policies. The analysis warned about the lack of transparency of civil society organizations which manage public facilities in social assistance, sports, leisure, and health. Created by popular movements to fight hunger, the Solidarity Kitchens became public policy under the Lula government and now have the support of the Food Acquisition Program, the PAA. Find out how these kitchens work on our Story of the Week.
In São Luís, the Solidarity Kitchen of the Adson Fernando Ferreira Araújo Institute, known as YAFA, feeds around 500 homeless people daily. Today, the kitchen has the federal government's support through the Food Acquisition Program, also known as PAA. The meals are prepared with food purchased by the government from farmers from the Landless Workers Movement, the MST.
The resumption of the PAA is very important for us. In fact, it's fundamental because the work we've doing since 2004 with homeless people and people facing social and personal vulnerabilities has been strengthened through a partnership with the MST cooperative and CONAB. Today is one of the happiest days in our lives because we partnered with a credible cooperative that offers healthy, pesticide-free products.
Since last year, Solidarity Kitchens have been a public policy and receive support from the Food Acquisition Program. The initiative benefits more than 2,000 Solidarity Kitchens nationwide, which play a fundamental role in the fight against hunger in Brazil. On the other hand, the government's action guarantees income for small producers.
Indigenous and Quilombola communities participated in almost 90% of projects hired in 2023, and the communities were reinserted into the federal government's social supply activities. There was an extremely significant gap in these community sales, and we've resumed with the second highest demand in the country regarding projects submitted.
The PAA stipulates that at least 30% of public food purchases aimed at projects to combat hunger must come from family farming. In the state of Maranhão, food producers stress the importance of this support for generating income for their families.
The programs have been fundamental to family farmers to organize their production and thus generate income that supports their families with consumption and helps the organic nature of family planning. We feel that agrarian reform is fair and necessary so that we can contribute to society in terms of food security. We feel that agrarian reform is fair and necessary so that we can contribute to society in terms of food security. We see that agrarian reform works. It's necessary, and that's why we continue to produce food and fight for more families to have access to these programs and land to produce food.
In today's Culture Talk, the Brazilian Women's Minister Cida Gonçalves said that the federal government will work to encourage women to run for office. She spoke about sex education and women's rights, as well the minister's actions to combat political gender violence.
In fact, in this election year, we need to work to elect more women. The more women in positions of power, the less political violence will happen. Political violence is a way of removing us from spaces of power, spaces that we have won facing huge difficulty and hardship. Therefore, electing as many women as possible, whether as mayors or parliamentarians, is strategic for us and is also fundamental to confronting gender-based political violence. Firstly, we are drawing up a national plan to combat gender-based political violence. Secondly, we will agree with the Superior Electoral Court and the Public Prosecutor's Office to establish an action protocol for reporting where and how these women resort if they need help. We will work much harder to encourage women to run for office. I traveled around the country. We have the Brazil Without Misogyny initiative, which works from the perspective of ending hatred and hostility towards women, which is what causes women to be removed from parliament and their microphones to be cut off. So we went around the country. I've already visited 21 states with public hearings in the assembly, talking to councilors, governors, and mayors, talking to female candidates and listening to female councilors. So, first, it is about encouraging them. Second, it is about fostering their candidacies. And third, it is about giving them political support so that whatever party they are in, they can feel empowered to be candidates. For me, it is not just a discussion about abortion. We need to discuss women's health as a whole. It is different, isn't it? You have to discuss family planning, childbirth, the support women have. You have to have emergency contraception if she needs the pill. She has to have everything she needs to plan and not have children. About the issue of sex education, you can't work on sex education linked to the issue of abortion because teenage pregnancy is the result of sexual violence. The Statute for Children and Adolescents and the Penal Code itself already condemned the issue of sexual violence. Therefore, when teenagers get pregnant, many of them end up pregnant because of rape within their own families. So you need to discuss sex education outside this context. It is about preventing it so that it doesn't happen.
Did you like the show? So hit the like button and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to receive notifications. See you next week.